Stay with me, Renee.
Someone was on the stairs.
Lock every gate. Nobody leaves until I know the truth. Why was this knot around her neck?
Something in her blood is not right.
Then it wasn't an accident. People will ask why you cannot protect your own wife. Careful. A man who asks that already expects an answer.
The scream came from the east staircase at 2:14 in the morning. Renee Sanders lay at the bottom of the marble steps, one hand pressed to her stomach, blood soaking through her pale nightgown. She was 7 months pregnant, and she had been alone when she fell. By the time Kang Tae-Jun reached her, he was already shouting orders before he understood the danger. "Call Dr. Park. Now!" He dropped to his knees, lifting his wife's head into his lap, his hands shaking for the first time in 15 years. Kang Tae-Jun did not shake. Men in his world called him ice. Men in his world feared the quiet way he solved problems. But nothing in 16 years of power had prepared him for the sight of his wife bleeding on the floor of his own home. "Stay with me," he whispered. "Stay with me, Renee." Her eyes opened for 1 second, long enough to whisper 4 words that would change everything. Someone was on the stairs. Then her eyes closed. Tae-Jun's head snapped up. He looked at the staff frozen in the hallway. His voice dropped into something colder than anyone in that house had ever heard. "Lock every door. Lock every gate. Nobody leaves this mansion until I know who did this." If a mother's instinct deserves to be believed, hit subscribe right now, and comment below to tell me where in the world you're watching from. 3 weeks earlier, Renee had sat at the head of a very different kind of battlefield. The Kang family dinner table. She had learned in 8 months of marriage that a dinner table could hurt worse than a fist. An American nurse, Tae-Jun's cousin Diyun, had said that night, swirling his wine, smiling the way a man smiles when he wants to wound without leaving marks. Marrying into a family like ours, Tae-Jun must have been very lonely. The table laughed politely. Renee did not. "I was an emergency room nurse for 6 years, she said calmly. "I've held people's lives together with my bare hands while doctors panicked. I don't scare easy, Diyun." Tae-Jun's hand found hers under the table. A small, silent apology for a family that had never once made her feel welcome. She had married a king. But in his own house, she was still treated like a stranger who had wandered into the wrong story. Renee touched the jade pendant at her throat, a gift from Tae-Jun on their wedding night, and reminded herself why she stayed. Not for the money. Not for the name. For him. Now, standing over his wife's unconscious body, Tae-Jun noticed something missing. The pendant. Gone from her throat. He found it 3 feet away, near the top of the staircase, cracked down the center, as if it had been crushed underfoot. Renee never took that necklace off, not to shower, not to sleep. She said it made her feel safe in a house that never quite felt like home. So why was it lying broken at the top of the stairs, and not around her neck when she fell? Dr. Mia Park arrived within 4 minutes, her bag already open before she reached the bottom step. "The baby's heartbeat is stable," she said after the first exam, "but she's lost more blood than a simple fall should cause." Tae-Jun's jaw tightened. Then it wasn't simple. By sunrise, the Kang mansion had become a fortress with no way out. Guards stood at every gate. Every phone was checked, every staff member questioned, while Renee lay upstairs under Dr. Park's careful watch, and for steadying what blood pressure remained. Tae-Jun sat beside her bed and did not move for 6 hours. He was the head of the Kang Group, a name that controlled shipping routes, hotels, and half the skyline of Empire City. He had buried enemies and built empires. But in his entire adult life, he had never felt as powerless as he did watching his wife's monitor beep steadily beside him. Diyun appeared in the doorway around noon, tie straight, face arranged into practiced concern. "Any word on who did this?" he asked. "Not yet," Tae-Jun said without turning around. "The guards will start talking. People will ask why the head of this family can't protect his own wife inside his own house." Tae-Jun finally turned. His voice was quiet. Quiet was worse than shouting. "Careful, Diyun. A man who asks that question before I do sounds like a man already expecting an answer." For half a second, something flickered behind Diyun's eyes, then vanished behind a smile. Family should support each other in times like this, he said and walked away. Tae-Jun watched him go, and for the first time allowed himself to wonder. Renee woke at midnight, weak but alert, her hand instantly moving to her stomach. The baby, she whispered. Stable, Tae-Jun said, gripping her other hand like it was the only solid thing left in his world. Relief broke something open in both of them at once. What were you doing on those stairs? Tae-Jun asked, his voice cracking between fear and anger. At 2 in the morning alone. You know I don't let you walk this house alone at night. Renee's eyes sharpened, even through her exhaustion. Don't you dare make this my fault. I'm not. I got a message on the house tablet. It said you needed me in the East Wing, that something was wrong with the nursery renovation. I thought it was you. Tae-Jun went very still. I sent no message. I know that now. The silence between them filled with everything neither of them wanted to say. You built walls around this house to keep danger out, Renee said, her voice trembling. And it still found me. I didn't marry a fortress, Tae-Jun. I married a man who promised I'd be safe. And I have never once in 8 months felt safe in this family. Tae-Jun's jaw tightened, pain flashing openly across a face built to hide it. I know I failed you. I don't need you to win a war for me, Renee whispered, pulling his hand toward the small, steady heartbeat monitor beside them. I need you to see what's right in front of you. Somebody in this house wants to hurt your child. And I need you to actually look. For the first time, Tae-Jun did. Something in this house is lying to both of them, and it's about to be exposed. Like this video right now, and subscribe if you want to see the truth unfold. The house security system had 11 cameras. 10 showed nothing unusual. The 11th, at the top of the east staircase, had been quietly disconnected at 1:58 in the morning, 16 minutes before Renee fell, and reconnected at 2:26 minutes after Tae-Jun found her. Someone had turned it off, and turned it back on. Tae-Jun's head of security, a broad, silent man named Reyes, pulled footage from a backup server only 3 people in the mansion knew existed. The grainy feed showed a figure in the hallway at 1:57 in the morning, face turned from the camera, gloved hands, kneeling briefly at the top of the stairs, doing something to the runner rug bolted into the marble, then walking away unhurried like someone who had done this before. Tae-Jun watched the footage 4 times in silence. It wasn't an accident. Dr. Park spoke carefully. There's something else. I ran a full toxicology screen on Renee's blood. Her clotting factors were suppressed. Something in her system was thinning her blood before she ever hit those stairs. Tae-Jun's hands curled into fists. She wasn't just pushed toward a fall. Somebody made sure that if the fall didn't work, the bleeding would. The mansion had a traitor. And that traitor had access to his wife's medicine cabinet. By the next morning, Tae-Jun had stripped Tae-Jun of every operational authority he held in the Kang group, effective immediately, pending investigation. You're punishing me for being loyal? Tae-Jun demanded, storming into the study. I've given this family 20 years. I'm removing every person with keycard access to the East Wing, Tae-Jun said evenly, until I find who used theirs at 1:58 in the morning. You happen to be one of 6 names on that list. So are 4 staff members and your own head of security. Why is it me you're staring at? Tae-Jun said nothing. He didn't need to. Renee, still weak but sitting up, watched from her bed and noticed something the men in the room had missed. Tae-Jun's hands steady through the entire conversation. Too steady for an innocent man being accused in his own home. She thought of something else too. A housemaid, young and nervous, who had refused to meet her eyes all morning. Tae-Jun, Renee called weakly. Send the young housemaid from the East Wing up here. I want to ask her something myself. For the first time since the fall, Renee wasn't the one being protected. She was the one hunting. That night, unable to sleep, Tae-Jun sat by the window of Renee's recovery room, watching the guarded gates below. Tell me something, Renee said softly, startling him. Something you've never told anyone. He was quiet for a long time. My mother died when I was 9, he finally said. Everyone told me it was her heart. I didn't learn the truth until I was 17. She was poisoned slowly over months by someone inside our own house who wanted my father's power redirected to another branch of the family. Renee's breath caught. I built this mansion into a fortress because I swore no one I loved would ever be that vulnerable again," he continued. "And the first person to nearly die inside these walls is you, carrying my child. I don't know how to survive that twice." Renee reached for his hand, weak but certain. "When I was a little girl, my mother worked 3 jobs so nobody could ever say we needed anybody's charity. She taught me that depending on someone else for safety was the most dangerous thing a woman could do. So when I fell in love with you, some part of me panicked. Loving you meant depending on you, and that has always terrified me." "And now?" he asked. "Now I think maybe safety was never supposed to come from walls or gates or guards," Renee whispered. "Maybe it was always supposed to come from 2 people who refused to stop looking for the truth together." Tae-Jun pressed his forehead gently to hers. "As long as I breathe," he whispered, an old family vow rising in his throat. "Nothing touches what is mine." Renee pulled back just slightly. "I'm not a thing you own, Tae-Jun. I'm a person you love. Say it that way." He held her gaze. "As long as I breathe," he said again, slower this time. "No one will ever make you feel powerless in this house again." The housemaid's name was Sora, and she broke down within minutes of Renee's gentle questioning. "I didn't know what the message was for," she sobbed. "Mr. Tae-Jun said it was a harmless surprise for the nursery. He gave me money for my mother's hospital bills. I didn't know anyone would get hurt. I swear I didn't know." "Who sent the message from my tablet?" Renee asked quietly. "He did. He has access to the staff network. He asked me to send it from your device, so it would look like it came from inside your own room." Tae-Jun's face had gone the color of stone. But there was more. Dr. Park returned within the hour, holding a small evidence bag. "Renee's prenatal vitamins. I had them tested against the manufacturer's formula. Someone replaced 3 capsules with a blood-thinning compound. Not enough to be immediately suspicious. Enough over 2 weeks to make any fall catastrophic." Then Reyes laid one final item on the desk, recovered from the drain beneath the staircase. Half of a small tracking device disguised as an ordinary bead, the same size and shape as the missing piece from the jade pendant at Renee's throat. The necklace hadn't just broken that night. It had been hollowed out from the very beginning. The truth is about to destroy this family. Subscribe now and drop a like so more people can see how this story ends. Tae-Jun called the entire family council into the main hall that evening. Every Kang relative, every senior member of the organization, summoned under lockdown to witness what he had found. He placed the hollow jade bead on the table. "My wife's pendant was a gift. I chose it from a jeweler my mother trusted before she died." He looked directly at Tae-Jun. "The only other person who knew that jeweler still made pieces for this family was your mother." Tae-Jun's composure finally cracked. "You don't know anything about what my mother lost." "Then tell me," Tae-Jun said quietly. "Tell all of us." The room went silent. "My mother was the elder daughter," Tae-Jun said, his voice shaking with 20 years of buried resentment. "She should have led this family. The council chose your father instead because a woman could never rule the Kang name. She spent her whole life watching your branch take everything, and when your wife's pregnancy threatened to end any chance for us, I took it." "You poisoned her vitamins," Tae-Jun said. "You disabled the camera yourself. You loosened the stair runner. You put a tracking device inside a necklace I gave my wife, so you would always know when she was alone." "I didn't want her dead," Tae-Jun said, and for a moment something almost human broke through. "I needed her weak enough to lose the child, so there would still be a path for my family's name to matter again." Renee, standing now with Dr. Park's careful support, spoke for the first time. "You tried to erase my child to settle a grudge that has nothing to do with either of us." Her voice did not shake. "That is the last mistake you will ever make in this family." He thought he had gotten away with it. He is about to find out how wrong he was. Subscribe before the ending drops, and comment below where you're watching from. Tae-Jun did not raise his voice. He didn't have to. Reyes has already delivered the security footage, the toxicology report, and Sora's signed statement to the council elders, and to the authorities waiting outside these gates, he said. "The lockdown is over for everyone in this house except you." 2 guards stepped forward and removed Tae-Jun from the hall. "You spent your whole life believing you were owed something," Tae-Jun said, as his cousin was led away. You were never owed my wife's blood. The council elders, witnesses to 20 years of buried family history, did not defend him. By morning, his name was removed from the Kang family register, his shares seized, his access erased from every system he once controlled. Justice in the Kang family was quiet, but it was absolute. Renee stood at the window of her recovery room, watching the gates finally open, for the first time in 4 days, to let the authorities take Tae-Jun away for good. Tae-Jun came to stand beside her, gently closing his hand over hers. "It's over," he said. "No," Renee said softly, resting her head against his shoulder. "It's finally honest. That's different. And better." 3 weeks later, Renee gave birth to a healthy baby girl. In the same mansion that had almost taken her life. They named her Hannah, a name that means one, because Tae-Jun said she was the one good thing that had come out of the darkest days of his life. At the celebration that followed, in front of the same family council that once doubted Renee's place at their table, Tae-Jun stood and raised his glass. 8 months ago, some of you asked why I married an American nurse instead of someone from a family like ours, he said, his eyes never leaving Renee. I'll tell you why. Everyone in this family who was born into power forgot how to protect anything with their bare hands. My wife never forgot. He reached into his pocket and placed the jade pendant on the table, repaired now, the crack sealed with a thin line of gold, in the old tradition of making broken things more beautiful than they were before. He fastened it gently around her neck. "Not a thing I own," he said quietly, echoing her own words back to her. "A promise I keep." Renee touched the repaired pendant, reached for her daughter, then for her husband, and for the first time since walking into this family, she felt something she had been chasing her entire life. Not power. Not protection. Peace. Some people think love means finding someone who will never let you fall. But real love isn't the absence of danger. It's the person who stays on the floor beside you, who tears a house apart to find the truth, who chooses you fully, loudly, publicly, even after everyone else said you didn't belong. Renee Sanders didn't just survive a fall. She exposed a lie 20 years in the making, and helped rebuild a broken family into something honest for the very first time. If this story moved you, that is exactly why we tell them. Welcome to Empire City Romance Stories, where every broken thing gets a second chance to become whole. If you enjoyed Renee and Tae-Jun's story, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you never miss the next one, drop a like, and tell us in the comments what you would have done in Renee's place. We'll see you in the next story.